Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today I'm going to be your historical guide on a bit of a driving tour. We're going to see how the modern landscape we interact with every single day is actually built directly on top of an ancient indigenous blueprint. We're putting on our historian hats to look right past all the modern concrete and steel and uncover a seriously profound living legacy.
But before we put the car in drive, I want you to just think about this question for a second. Because what feels like a modern, master-planned community or a brand-new, freshly paved highway might actually be the direct continuation of ancient engineering. The indigenous peoples of this region were literally our first architects and land managers, and their decisions from centuries ago, they still completely dictate where we live, how we travel, and even how we market real estate today.
Here is the itinerary for today's tour. 1. Driving ancient highways. 2. From mounds to modern towns. 3. The map as marketing. 4. Engineering forests with fire. And 5. Sessions, grids, and sovereignty.
Section 1. Driving ancient indigenous highways. Okay, let's dive right in and look at the most visible legacy you probably interact with every single day: our transportation network. As we hit the road, we're actually tracing the exact paths of ancient commerce.
For centuries, Native American tribes like the Creek, Choctaw, and Chickasaw developed this incredibly extensive, highly efficient network of footpaths and trading routes to connect their towns. When the U.S. government eventually needed roads, they didn't reinvent the wheel. They literally just paved over what was already there. In 1805, what was known as the Lower Creek Trading Path was widened into a horse trail for U.S. mail, which evolved into a military road and eventually became the famous Old Federal Road. If you drive U.S. Route 80 or State Route 59 today, you're essentially driving an ancient indigenous highway. It's a wild thought to realize that travelers today are often stuck in rush hour traffic on the exact same patches of dirt where indigenous traders walked hundreds of years ago.
And hey, that's definitely not an isolated example. Take Byler Road, which was Alabama's very first public road commissioned in 1819. It directly followed the route of existing indigenous trails connecting Tuscaloosa up to Muscle Shoals. Or think about the McIntosh Road, a major northern route that was actually improved by Creek Chief William McIntosh. The modern highways we drive today, places like U.S. Route 431 and State Route 21, are absolutely direct inheritances of these ancient ribbons of commerce.
Section 2. From mounds to modern towns. Let's pull our tour into town for a minute and see how prime real estate has been valued and organized the exact same way for centuries. We tend to think of zoning and urban planning as these very modern inventions, right? But the historical record tells a totally different story.
Way before European settlers ever arrived, the original architects of Moundville claimed a massive 185 acres right on the Black Warrior River. They artificially leveled a central community plaza and intentionally arranged 29 large earthen mounds around the perimeter. They placed the largest residential mounds on the north side, which effectively embedded a clear social hierarchy right into the physical layout of the town. This was a thriving prehistoric metropolis for 1,000 people, engineered with a level of precision that perfectly mirrors how a real estate developer pitches a zoned, planned residential community today.
The Creek Nation kept this brilliant blueprint going with what they called their Tolwes. The Creek Confederacy developed a highly sophisticated settlement pattern. These self-governing towns were placed on the absolute most fertile plains bordering large rivers. They purposely zoned their land, putting agricultural fields on one side of a waterway and residences on the other. They effectively mapped out prime riverfront property, laying down a blueprint so completely advantageous that European-American settlers would later claim those exact same spots to build their modern city centers.
Section 3. The map as marketing. Next up, let's talk about how indigenous words actually function as branding assets today and dig into the cartographic DNA of our surroundings.
When you see certain names on county lines or popping up in real estate brochures, you are looking at literal translations permanently etched into our local geography. The very name of the state, Alabama, that comes from the Choctaw phrase for thicket clears. Talladega originates from Muscogee words that mean border town. Wetumpka literally translates to rumbling waters, and Autauga County comes from the Alabama word for pure water.
So why does this matter now? Because real estate agents and community planners leverage these ancient names. They instantly convey an authentic connection to the land that a brand new subdivision just cannot manufacture. Driving through Tallapoosa County or living near Chocolaco Creek provides this premium sense of heritage. It functions as a powerful modern marketing tool that grounds a community in deep history. Though you have to admit, there is certainly a sharp irony in developers using the heritage of displaced peoples as a premium amenity to sell brand new homes today.
Section 4.
Engineering forests with fire. If we were to look out the window at the timberlands right now, we'd see how indigenous land stewardship permanently engineered the local ecology. The forests we see aren't just wild, untouched nature. They're very much a managed landscape.
Looking at this through the lens of a tribal historian, we recognize that for millennia, indigenous populations used prescribed burning as a vital tool. They basically engineered those highly valued, open, longleaf pine ecosystems that early settlers later encountered. By setting frequent, low-intensity fires, they kept the forest totally free of choking underbrush, and that created the perfect park-like habitat for hunting game and managing their crops.
And guess what? Modern landowners are directly applying this inherited indigenous ecological wisdom right now to restore forests and maximize their rural real estate value. After a long period of harmful fire suppression in the 20th century, groups like the Nature Conservancy, along with private landowners, have returned to this ancient practice. Maintaining a healthy fire-managed longleaf pine forest directly boosts rural property values. It provides premium timber, pristine wildlife habitats, and incredible aesthetic beauty. It's a direct continuation of ancient land management.
Section 5. Sessions, Grids, and Sovereignty. For the final stop on our tour, we need to impartially examine the legal foundation of the land beneath us and how modern property lines were drawn. The orderly grid of our properties is inherently tied to what was lost. 21 million. That is an absolutely staggering number. It represents the exact acres of land the Creek Nation was forced to cede in the 1814 Treaty of Fort Jackson. Following the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, this monumental land cession fundamentally shifted the map, suddenly opening up vast territory in what is now central and South Alabama to white settlement.
That specific treaty fueled what historians call Alabama fever. Tens of thousands of settlers poured in, which eventually led to the Indian Removal Act of 1830, forcing the removal of the Creek, Choctaw, and Chickasaw nations. After these cessions, all that land was surveyed, divided, and sold. The orderly grid of counties, townships, and ranges that literally defines your modern property lines and deeds today was laid directly over this newly acquired Native American territory.
However, the story of indigenous presence isn't just locked in the past. Today, the Porch Band of Creek Indians, who are the only federally recognized tribe in Alabama, maintain a powerful sovereign presence on trust lands in Escambia County. And as a direct consequence of this historical timeline, their lands are uniquely exempt from state and local property taxes. Far from being just a relic of history, the tribe is actively engaged in the modern real estate landscape, participating in major investment and development, and proudly maintaining their sovereignty in the present day.
As we pull up to the end of our driving tour for today, I really want you to remember this powerful thought from our sources. A piece of land is not a blank slate. It is a living document of the people who came before. The indigenous peoples were our first architects, our first engineers, and our first land managers. They set the foundational blueprint that we are literally still building on top of right now.
So, I'll leave you with this. The next time you drive to the store, walk through a local park, or just look at a map of your town, ask yourself, how many ancient indigenous blueprints are hiding beneath the roads, trees, and street signs in your own neighborhood? See if you can spot the hidden history shaping your everyday world. It's out there, right beneath our feet, just waiting to be recognized. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes open to the history all around you.